States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome you all to the voting meeting of the Exeter Township School District Board of Directors, and announce that we did meet prior to, in executive session prior to the meeting to discuss potential litigation. Hunter, I understand you're to speak for the student body, but I'm going to take the wind out of your sails a little bit and call upon Dr. Martin. This was going to be later in the evening, but I think we can cover it now, and she will give her proposal on how we're going to resolve the fact that you all are not getting an education this year.
I think that's a little bit debatable.
Hopefully that isn't true. Do I pass these down? When you receive the handout that I have sent around the room, if you would actually turn to the second page first, I think it's a little bit easier to understand in plain language rather than visually to look at on the calendar. After giving a whole lot of thought to the inordinate number of school closures we've had this winter and how we could adjust our calendar to accommodate the closures, optimize our instructional time, provide for some much needed staff professional development, and also make sure that we're receiving our full subsidy from the state, and also make sure that we are not inconveniencing our students or their families unduly. I would like to make the following recommendations as noted on the second page. Students are currently scheduled to make up days on April 16th and 17th if necessary. That was already planned, which they will do, and this is as scheduled, so there's no need for any calendar changes to accomplish that. One thing that would be changed is students would now be attending school on Monday, April 21st, which would be the day after Easter. That is currently scheduled as a holiday, not a snow makeup day. Under this change, it would become a snow makeup day. School is now scheduled to end, as far as for students, on June 5th. Students would make up the day on June 6th, which is a Friday, and that is currently scheduled as a makeup day. So that's a planned makeup day, and they would be attending on that day. But under this plan, that would be the last student day. So students would be making up 4 days, April 16th, April 17th, April 21st, which is new, and June 6th, which has been planned. And June 6th would then be the last student day. Now there are 4 more days that need to be made up because there are 8 days altogether. We've already accounted for 4. The next 4 days would be July, or excuse me, yeah, it feels like it could be July, but so far it's still June. June 9th through 12th, Monday through Thursday of the following week. Those would instead be made up as Act 80 days. Now, on these days, the students are counted as being present, although they are not present. And the days are used for staff training under the law that may occur in the areas where we have new academic programming, such as a math adoption that we're expecting, implementation of things like student learning objectives, which will be required of all districts in Pennsylvania to identify objectives for each course, each grade, each subject for the 2014-15 school year, which will be used as part of the new teacher effectiveness model and will be 20% of the teacher's evaluation and the principal's evaluation as well. And these have to be done by next year, and we were very worried about where we were going to find the time with all the teachers to give their input to accomplish this. Well, these 4 days would allow us time to do the math training and also some time to work on the student learning objectives. And then we also have the completion of our comprehensive plan, which we want to communicate to our staff and get some input from them. So then June 12th would be the last teacher day. Now, being that the students would end on June 6th, graduation day would remain June 6th. There would be no need to change the graduation day as scheduled, and that would be a comfort to families who had previously scheduled relatives to come for the child's graduation and could potentially, not be able to attend if we moved it, or even lose their airfare, et cetera, et cetera. There would be no loss in state subsidy because the students would be counted as being present for 181 days, even though technically they're not physically there for more than 177 days. The only reason we would be able to do that is because we have the requisite number of hours in the student year. What they look for is a minimum of 990 hours for secondary students in grades 7 through 12. And with the deduction in hours for the days that teachers would be there but students would not be there, June 9th through 12th, as you can see by the chart at the very bottom of this page, the seniors would have over 1,000 hours, as would the students in grades 7 through 11. A little difference in the number of hours, but they would still be well above the 990. For the elementary grades, the threshold is 900, not 990. So we're looking at 962 and a little bit more for grades 5 and 6, and over 1,000 for grades K to 4. So well above the 900. I think this is good for families. I think it's good for our seniors, good for students in general. I don't think that the days from June 9th through 12th would be productive as instructional days. And I think they would be very productive to give staff the opportunity to participate in some training that will help them be prepared to start the year off on the right foot with our students when they re-enter in August. So that is my proposal, and Donna has adjusted the one-page calendar that we had. You'll see on the first page, this would show what the new calendar would look like if the board would approve it. Are there any questions?
Dr. Moore, in the event of an additional storm or something like that, how would that affect?
Well, we still have another day, March 7th, that could potentially be used. It had been scheduled as an elementary conference day, or half day really, but we could use it to count for half of a day of instruction and half a day of Act 80 time, or I'm not really sure how that would work, but I think we could utilize March 7th if we had another day. And if there's anything in addition to one more day, I think then we're going to be grabbing probably one more Act 80 day on that Friday, June 13th, and hopefully there wouldn't be any more than that, because I don't even want to think about going into the next week in June. So that we have a little bit of a wiggle room, excuse me, but we cannot use Memorial Day. That's not allowed. It's not legal to use Memorial Day. So that's really the only other day that I can think about that wouldn't go to the end of the, or past the end of the year.
Does this particular arrangement work just because we know the calendar changes every year because the days change every year? But, so would this work on any calendar, this compromise, if you had to do it on a different calendar? I'm just wondering why I appreciate the fact that you came up with this idea, but why it hadn't you haven't seen it in the newspaper already? I just missed it from other schools.
Yeah, I have seen it. I have seen it, and we even got an email today saying from the state saying they were extending the date to apply for these exceptions this year, and I'm sure they've had a lot of inquiries about it. So, you know, I don't know that I've seen it in the paper, but I have read about it, and we decided to explore it. What I didn't know is if we met the requirement for the hours. So we had somebody in our tech department really, you know, crunch the numbers for hours and so forth, and came up with a whole spreadsheet. And fortunately, I was pleasantly surprised to see that we had a really nice cushion.
My other question is, why does grades 5 and 6 have only under 1,000 hours when the other 3 all have over 1,000 hours?
I'm not even sure about that. I know that the students get in at 8, but their day doesn't start right away because the teacher's day starts later. I'm really not sure. I was surprised when I saw that. It must be a few minutes. Must be a few minutes a day that adds up. So I'm not sure, Carol.
Could you get back to us on that?
Sure, sure.
It comes to 63 hours.
It's about 5% less than the others. Yeah, do they have more early dismissals than anyone else?
No,
That's what I'm thinking.
no, they have the same
Yeah.
number. Don, do you have any idea why? We were talking about that just today.
I think it could be because they're the middle of the 3-tier busing, they're the middle tier. And so because of the times, I think that's
That would be my guess too, because they're sort of crunched in and they have to be dropped off at a certain time and picked up at a certain time. And because of the teacher's hours, they can't start classes right when they're dropped off at 8 o'clock. They start at, I don't know, 8:20, I guess, or something.
8:25 is the official.
8:25, okay. So, I know that the K-4 day is the longest day that we have. So, I mean, the length of the teacher day is exactly the same, no matter what grade. So it's just a schedule factor or probably a transportation factor. But I'll see. When I came in to the district the very year that Royfton opened, when all those schedules were put into place, so I don't know if anyone whose history predates me would have an answer about how that all came about. Maybe Rick Bregman could even shed some light on that, or Eric Flam, maybe even when Royfton first opened. But I'll see if I can find out anything more, but that would be my best guess too.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. I mean, I think it was important that we could accommodate people as far as the June 6th graduation date, that we could do that, and obviously we can do that. I think that just a comment, and that's these Act 80 days, obviously now we need to finish that and make sure that there's some meaningful activity that takes place on those days. And that will be a challenge, I would think.
It will be a challenge. For the majority of our staff, it won't be a big challenge, but for some staff, it probably will be a challenge to find something that really suits their needs specifically, but we're going to work on it.
Are there any other thoughts on this?
Now, I don't have this on the agenda as an actual vote, but it would need to be voted on if you're prepared to do that.
Yeah.
Hunter, will this keep the mobs away from the front door?
Well, I don't know, if you could maybe excuse a couple of more days at school.
Hunter, don't push it, son.
No, this is excellent. The largest concern that we heard was having to reschedule all the family vacations, all the family visits down here for graduation, and I think that this really avoids that problem.
Will you give us one more Friday, the day after you're supposed to get off? Well, you have no choice in that one because it's already on the calendar.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Thank you. I feel better now.
So do you want to put this on the agenda this evening?
Yes.
Somebody
Yes,
write
so
it?
we
In fact, if anyone is so disposed, I would accept the motion to approve this plan.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of approving this recommendation, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you. We will begin communicating with the families and make sure it's on our website, and obviously all the teachers and staff members as well.
Perhaps the Reading Eagle will give us a great big headline.
But this is pending.
Pending PDE approval.
Yeah, which.
Now, the
not sure how
direction that the
soon we'll get there.
the legislature would have had to change the law to reduce the number of allowed days. However, they have gotten word to PDE that PDE is supposed to be most generous in approving on an hour basis. So the fix is in Harrisburg, and it's just a matter of, you like that? I thought it was appropriate.
But you know though, just to go back to it for a moment, because you had asked for the number of days, snow days we had over the last 15 years, are they doing 5 or under annually, which is pretty
Yes.
dramatic. And I suppose there's no, I mean, if this works this time, hopefully it would work again.
Mhm.
But I'm just wondering if maybe this is sort of like a flag of caution to say, you know, it's nice to make your plans well in advance, but hey, you know, a little leeway is, you know, would be really nice, because maybe the next time it won't work out, in which case we do have to extend the school year.
Mhm.
And, you know, life happens, kind of a thing. So I just would add caution.
Well, and the other thing that, is Mr. Kane here? I thought I saw
Yes.
him. There he is, okay. The other thing we had discussed is possibly scheduling graduation a little bit later. Even if we finish earlier, you could still wait a few days or even up to a week, you know, for the actual ceremony. I know that, you know, some seniors may not, you know, be in favor of that, because I know senior week and all that, but, you know, you could still do senior week a week later. It's still there, the beach is still there?
Not the same, though.
It's not the same?
Not bad, though.
We voted on this, right?
Yes,
Yes,
we
we
do.
did.
Thank you. I forgot to put my X's. Now, for my students, I'm going to give you the opportunity to leave now. I know that you all would love to hear this example of government go on, but the Dairy Queen's still open, and you got at least an hour before your parents would expect you home. So you may leave now if you'd like, otherwise we're going to start the meeting.
If they stay, it won't
Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, you could sure pair one real quick.
Gotta encourage them.
I'll let you guys sneak out.
Get to the back row, and to the front row, so we don't feel lonely.
We have, is there any other public comments to be made? Thank you. We have two sets of minutes, one for January 14th and one for the 23rd. I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor, please, of approving the minutes as presented, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's report.
I move that we accept the treasurer's report as stated.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Treasurer's report is approved. We have two sets of revisions to policies, one 220 and one concerning student expression and distribution of materials. and the second being policy 913 regarding our relationship with non-school organizations and their rules to continue any affiliation with us. This is just the first reading. We'll discuss it further at the workshop with any recommendations you might have, unless there are some that exist now.
I do have a question. Would you like to explain how this change came about, why the change?
Yeah, apparently there were some updates to the laws governing student expression since the policy, the original policy had been adopted in 2003, and our policies no longer complied with the law, and so we took a look at them, and I sent them to John, and he said that PSBA had updated their policies because they were correct, and our policy did not necessarily comply with the law any longer, and so he recommended that we change the policies.
Jen, is that the case with the bracelets or something?
No, it's not. It's the case with the church party, for church birthday party for the fifth graders.
Oh, okay. We have to allow those now,
Well, you have to allow them to pass out their invitations.
as long as there's no sugar in it, right?
Or peanuts.
All right, so we will,
Scott,
yes.
are these policies clear enough that our administrators can interpret them in a fairly easy way without putting their own jobs on the line?
Well, hopefully they're not going to be putting any jobs on the line.
I read it, I don't
mean,
think the student has any First Amendment right at all.
Are they, the policies provide clear enough guidance so our administrators can not think they're going to be second guessed?
Right. Well, I think that the guidance that you get from First Amendment cases is that people have the right to express their opinion or their beliefs religiously, and you cannot react against it as they have in the Mount Pocono case, which is the genesis of this whole thing. It was a court case that came out. It was won by this alliance, and when they won the case, they sent out letters to about 300 of the school districts in the state saying your policies are violative of First Amendment freedom of speech. We always had thought this was more the neighborhood of limited forums and open forums and stuff like that, so you could restrict it. But when the court took that interpretation, then we ended up with a very different interpretation. Although the way Mount Pocono handled it, they seem to be just sort of kicking themselves in the shins. You know, it could have been a lot easier. But what you cannot do is you cannot come back and say, well, we only allow things that we feel is appropriate, or we only allow things that are school related. If you let some things go through, you've got to let the rest go through. And even if you're a fifth grader, you have a right of freedom of expression. I think that's one of the things that sort of surprises us, how young some of the, that they've considered the right of freedom of expression as a fifth grader. It's pretty young.
And in maintaining this balance of freedom of expression, how do we protect the rights of the children from being exposed to material that they would consider offensive? I mean, what are their rights?
What I mean, can be protected. Well, I think that anytime you run into clearly vulgar speech, you can control it. But I mean, we have that I love the boobies case that has come through, and that is that was not, the court said this was not offensive. Some people differ in the opinion of that, but I mean, it's sort of a hard position to take because it becomes so personal when you start looking at something like that for some people, and just some not. So, in answer to your question, I think you have to give deference to non-violent, non-vulgar type of speech, and certainly if there's a religious connotation, you cannot touch it because there's a freedom of religion too.
Well, what if the material is obviously bigoted?
That's not necessarily prohibited. That you have I mean, I think the State College case from some years back actually had an attempt to control speech that was, you can't say something that's going to hurt people's feelings. You can't be nasty, you can't be mean. and the court said in that case, and that was the Third Circuit, they said, yeah, you can. Yeah, that's part of freedom of expression.
I mean, I guess I'm just concerned about the vulnerability of young children. who
Well,
might be-
I think when you have something like that, if you have something that's clearly vulgar, that I would then say that this is something that they're not to be exposed to. I mean, you have to shoot from the hip occasionally to take your position in these situations. But I think common sense says, what is the limitation of freedom? We're going to give every expectation to have freedom of speech that we can, but what is the limitation? And certainly something that encourages violence. That's a classic case. If you try to incite riot, that's not protected speech. Certain vulgarities, that's sort of a close line now. I think it's a judgment call, and you will run into those issues, and sometimes you'll reverse yourself and say, I thought that was the right call, but it was not the right call. Just sit down and counsel with your administrator, solicitor if necessary.
Thanks.
Well, I just have two more process-oriented questions, and one was on, unless I should save them for next week. It doesn't matter to me. One had to do with the policy 220. It didn't seem to me that it really spelled out on page 4, sort of the third paragraph there. Notice is not given during the period between submission and the time for plan distribution and posting. Students may proceed with the plan distribution and posting. And it just seemed to me if we could define a time frame for them, that might eliminate somebody doing something that they shouldn't be doing. It looks like there used to be a
There used to be
time
the
frame,
2 days or,
yeah. So
yeah,
that's just,
I agree.
it's just sort of, we're all on the same playing field if we know what the time frame is. The other question I had was on 913, and that really just had to do with, on the first page, I wondered if we should spell out social media platforms or other platforms. I know we talk about district websites, but a Facebook page or a Twitter account or something else would be considered a social media platform. And they're the district's accounts versus, I'm not talking about a student's account or somebody else's.
The reason that sometimes we don't get specific like that is because social media is something that's very fluid and changes. 1 year it's Twitter, and Facebook is out. The next year, used to be MySpace and whatever. And we don't want policies to become quickly outdated.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because they're meant to last a few years. But with technology now, we have to continually update our policies that deal with technology because we can't keep up with it. So that was the only reason.
Those concerns should be noted. Anything else to discuss on it right now? If not, we will consider them again next month. Business, business functions, Mr. Sullivan.
I move that the Board of School Directors accept the Exeter Township School District Tax Collector Audit prepared by Reinzel Kuntz Lesher LLP for a period ending 12/31/2012. That's in attachment 6A1 and 6A2.
I have a motion and a second by Mr. Brady. Any discussion?
I think it's important that be noted here that it was an uneventful audit, again, and just my congratulations to Anna and the fact that we continue to have these clean audits is a wonderful sign.
And Mr. Dolan, this is...
Yes, and Mr. True. Sorry, Charles.
Yes, we've known Charlie before. Anyway, any further discussion? Not all in favor of accepting the audit, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The audit is accepted.
I move that the Board of School Directors approve the Berks County Intermediate Unit mandated services budget for the year 2014-2015 in the amount of $1,720,604. The budget reflects a 0 increase in Berks member district payments for BCIU mandated services over 2013-2014. Exeter Township School District share of the budget is projected to be $47,189.67.
Second.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. David's, Dr. Bender's comment last year was they keep coming through with the same number for us every year. Obviously, we're overcharged sometime in the past.
That did occur to me, yes. And continue.
No. So, with no further discussion, all in favor of approving the BCIU budget, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move that the Board of School Directors approve the fiscal year 2014-2015 preliminary general fund budget and authorize the submittal to the Department of Education on the required forms.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of approving the submission of the preliminary budget, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move that the Board of School Directors authorize school district officials to file with the Pennsylvania Department of Education for exceptions to allow tax increases above the index as authorized by the 2006 Taxpayer Relief Act, amended by Act 25 of 2011.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Yes, sir.
I understand the non-binding nature of this particular exercise and understand its flexibility that it provides. But I'm going to suggest to the board a no vote, and that I will be voting no. I think it's imperative that we begin to signal to the taxpayers that we are going to be trying to hold the line. It also signals the issue of prioritization of projects, which I know we have talked about and has been talked about in the past. And I hope that what it would also signal is that it would begin to represent a change in philosophy of the way that the budget is constructed going forward, from being a bottoms-up where projects are inserted and revenues are looked at, to where it is a revenue-driven top-down process that again holds the line on expenditures as a function of revenues.
Thanks, sir. Any other discussion?
Could we have an idea of if we would hold the line rather than what the total amount would be for a budget as compared to if we just looked at the exception, which is it the special ed exception?
No,
Or
this is the retirement.
Oh, the retirement exception, okay.
It's one exception. But
Okay. So what's the difference in dollars?
525,000.
525,000.
Between the index amount of 2.7% and the exception, which and basically the preliminary budget that's being adopted shows the need at this point, and again, a lot of things will change between now and June, to increase taxes above the index amount of 2.7. I mean, the preliminary budget is really what enables you to apply for exceptions.
Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving a request for exceptions above the tax index, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 7-2.
I move that the Board of School Directors approve the following Exeter Township School District employees to participate in the Exeter Township School District Procurement Card Program for purposes of purchasing e-books for the elementary libraries. Devin Garteris, sorry about that if I pronounced it wrong, Sally Lamb, Lindsay Stillwell, and Wendy Wegman. The transaction limit and monthly limit will be $500.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion.
So do we know if it's going to be 500, is it $500 till the end of June, or what is it?
They actually have $700 that was budgeted that's available to them. I've just set these limits at that amount because I don't anticipate any single purchase going above that at one point in time.
Oh, so it's $700
Is
max?
max
Oh, okay.
for the entire year.
Oh, it didn't read that way.
I didn't include the budget allocation, I was just including the transaction limit.
Okay, thanks, I just wanted to know, thanks.
Any further discussion? Not all in favor of approving the e-book transactions, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move that the Board of School Directors approve budget transfers for the month of January 2014 in the amount of $4,403. That's in attachment 6F.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move that the Board of School Directors ratify the memorandum of agreement between Exeter Township School District and the Pennsylvania Joint Board of Workers United, SEIU, July 1st, 2013 through June 30th, 2015. That's in attachment 6G.
Second.
A motion and second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor of approving the labor agreement, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Include business funds.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Dr. Bender, personnel.
I move the Board of School Directors approve the following retirements listed under Part 1, certificated staff A through F.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Just a question for Dr. Martin. Do you think we'll need to replace these individuals, or we'll be able to reduce staffing at this point, which would then control some of our budget issues?
Right,
eventually?
I think a little bit of each, Mr. Grady. We haven't done our complete analysis yet. We have to look at school by school at numbers and so forth. One person's a librarian. Obviously, we still want school to have services of a librarian. School psychologists, we have to see what our caseloads are and whether we can meet the mandates that we have for identification and processing of students that are being evaluated for special education services, to see if we need to replace that position. But in probably at least 2 or 3 cases, we do not believe that we will need to replace a teacher.
Okay, thank you.
There's a couple others we're unsure of.
Any further discussion?
Do we have any idea, what is kind of a ballpark figure of the retirement of these professionals, the savings to the district, if they, neither of them, none of them were replaced, or only, do you have any idea?
If they're not replaced, off the top of my head, I'm going to pull a spreadsheet up, 115,000 if you're including Social Security, retirement.
For each person not
For
replaced.
each person.
For each
For each person.
Thank you.
Any further discussion or questions? If not, all in favor of approving the retirements, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? If someone would discreetly text Mr. Gumbert.
Which one? The brother is telling him that his brother's going to be bothering him?
He was concerned this afternoon.
We
when were
had the
at
open forum at Jack Small, and he raised his hand, he said, could you please approve my retirement? So we'll have to let them know that we did.
Oh, Dr. Southwick,
I got
tell
it.
them.
Yeah, we'll tell them.
We can do that
Can I
now.
reconsider?
Dr. Bender.
I move the Board of School Directors accept the following resignation of Jonathan D. Bell, senior high school art teacher, effective February 10th, 2014.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the resignation, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
I move the Board of School Directors.
I have a
I'm
question.
sorry.
Dr. Martin, do we have someone, I know we have someone in there as his, as a substitute. Are we going to be filling that position full-time, or are we waiting till the end of the year?
We're waiting till the end of the year, and we will probably not fill the position.
Because of reduction in staff? Reduction in students?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I move the Board of School Directors approve the amended appointment of Kimberly Marmontello as certificated staff listed on Part 1, letter A.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move the Board of School Directors approve the substitute teachers listed under number 2, Part A, as certificated staff.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move the Board of School Directors approve the substitute teachers listed in Part 2B, the guest teachers.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Or 2 nays.
I just wanted to make a comment. I had taken your advice, Mr. Quinter, and I've contacted Kutztown University concerning if they knew how many substitutes or how many teachers were available for substitute list. And I had passed on the information to Dr. Weber. They do have a career development center, and if Mrs. Weber decides, we can hook up with the assistant director and post on their website any substitutes that we might need, and and maybe connect with some of the teachers who do not have positions.
My sister, who's in the education department at the Kutztown, is involved in that, so I'll tell her we might be calling, and thank you for finding out.
And Mr. Quinter, Dr. Weber did a little research on the guest teachers and their degrees.
The 3 that are listed here, Eric has a bachelor's in English, Emily has a double degree in biology and Spanish, and Penny has a degree in English. I do have the degree for every teacher. It's interesting, Louise Ordeman, one of our long-serving guest teachers, has a BS in biology and an MBA in accounting. A combination, rather strange combination there. Psychobiology, I think I saw. Yeah, psychobiology. I don't know what that is, but very interesting. Russian, a degree in Russian, a lot of computer science, chemical engineering. So, quite a broad spectrum. And then we do have the ever popular tourism degree.
There's some unique talent in those guest
Yes,
teachers.
yes, there are.
Move on, please.
I move the Board of School Directors make the following appointments. Number 3, support staff, and number 4, extracurricular staff. That includes the spring coaching staff listed on our attachment.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Is there any chance we can reduce some of this tuition?
That's by the contract
Just so I
and the
understand.
panel. But Mr. Stout has assured me they're all sterling individuals.
I asked about quality, I just asked about
With
quality.
no further discussion, all in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move the Board of School Directors approve or ratify the following requests for leaves of absence. Number 1, certificated staff, and number 2, support staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Dr. Martin, I interrupted you.
No, I was just going to say, we do revisit every year the staffing for the athletic department as well, and seeing if we could trim anything. Unfortunately, we haven't been real successful in the past, but we'll continue to look at it and see if we...
We've tweaked it, but
Yeah.
it's really the number of kids that are out there.
It's the kid, yeah, it's really driven by the
You want to
enrollment
donate
of
your
the
time
kids.
and volunteer for no pay, we'll be happy to accept your.
I'm already doing that several nights a week,
Mr.
and I'm off already.
So it's all Mr. Stubbs' responsibility, but we are now looking at leaves of absence. Is there any discussion on the proposal? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move the Board of School Directors approve or ratify the following appointments under the change of status category, letter E, number 1, certificated staff, and number 2, support staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move the Board of School Directors approve the following staff conferences listed under Part F, number 1 through 10.
I'll entertain a second.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
That Commonwealth Budget Seminar must be a big part of it.
Yeah. Right here, next week, be there.
Unless there's further discussion, all in favor of approving the conferences as listed, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That completes personnel.
Thank you, Dr. Bender. Student functions, Mrs. Kutcher.
Item A, the trips within the 60-mile radius of the variety. Item B, I move that the following field trip beyond the 60-mile radius be approved. The senior high band member wanted them to Big Spring High School on March 14th and 15th to attend the PMEA Region 5 Band Fest.
I have a motion and a second. Is he going to do more than attend? Does anybody know?
Mr. King,
He'll be playing.
Oh, okay.
do you know how many people go to this particular event every year?
1.
Yeah, just one.
No, it could be whatever number qualifies. In various years, I think the most we've had during my 7 years here has been 3 in 1 year. It's a very select event.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of allowing the individual to participate in the band festival, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Well, I don't know if I want to say this one, but I will. I move that the Board of Directors adopt the 2014-15 school calendar.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to ask for consideration of President's Day as a makeup
It's a makeup day.
instructional day if there or is a school has to be closed prior to that time.
Don, that can be one of those days that we can't touch because I know other schools have used it as a makeup day.
That's right, it can be touched.
Right.
I heard of some school districts yesterday.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know it can be touched because others have used it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So that's not a problem at all.
But I wonder if we need to add that to that policy where it actually gives us, it specifically addresses Easter Monday, then we would need to add that to that policy.
Mm-hmm.
At 543.
Yeah, the one we were looking at today.
Do any of our contracts have any prohibitions on
It's a holiday for personnel.
Yeah.
That are eligible for holidays.
Yeah,
And,
so,
I haven't heard.
well, what we're doing this year for the Monday after Easter, which is a holiday for all of us, really, is we're having, allocating a different day as the holiday.
So to go back to President's Day then, that would interfere with one of the contracts.
Yeah.
So we can't just,
Yeah, because there's a certain number of holidays that we give, so we have to find, if that's not it, we have to find it somewhere else.
Well, we could put it on there as a potential snow day, and then if there are reasons that we can't do it, we won't use it.
We
Does that
can
make
also
sense?
think of it as depending on the number of snow days we use prior to that time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we've only used one, I wouldn't suggest
Right,
using
yeah.
President's Day, but
Well, that could be like makeup day number 5 or something like that,
yeah.
that we rarely use a 5th one.
Mhm.
But we still would have to work out a little bit of the details because we can't call it a holiday and then also call it a snow makeup day.
so do you want to just put that on the list for next year and work out the contracts, to work through the contracts and pass this tonight? Or
There might be another way around it.
What is the date we're using for commencement then?
For next year?
Yes.
Oh, we don't have that yet.
For the,
Because according to this, if you had it on the 5th, you'd still have another day. Well, I guess school's closed, office is open, but you're using that as potentially one of your snow days, which runs
Right.
into probably just
We
the
just
calendar
had.
this evening,
Right.
which doesn't really get us ahead of the game, gets us more behind the game.
I'm willing to be optimistic about next year.
Well, you know, a certain groundhog in western Pennsylvania.
for the purposes of this amendment, of this proposed calendar, do we have to table this so that you can work that out, or do we just want to, what do you want?
Well, we should approve it by March at the very latest. We could wait a little bit longer and take another look at it, but we need to approve it we need to get it approved next month and get it out to all other districts and so forth. Make sure we communicate it to the families and the staff.
is there any urgency to make the changes this year and just, as opposed to just keeping a list of this is the stuff I'm going to look at next year's calendar because of
I don't think so. I mean, we can always do similar to what we did this year. If we get stuck in that same situation, we can go back and say, okay, now we've got to look for, because in reality, it's the staff is going to feel that, well, I'd rather, trade off a day here for a day there and, just take my day off another day, my guaranteed vacation day. And we work very well with all of our bargaining units. They all understand, if you get in a situation like this, it's nobody's fault. You can't control the weather. So,
there's also February 13th, which is a flex in service.
yeah, the problem with that is if it's a flex day, it can't be a makeup day, because what happened is, a lot of people said, well, why didn't you use, what was the Friday, the 14th?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Why did-
Valentine's Day.
Well,
I
that's
can
not-
understand.
No, that wasn't the reason.
Oh.
Why didn't you use that day? Well, it's because only 84 of our teachers would have been here out of 300. The rest had all
Made
credit for that
flexed.
day.
Yeah.
So there was no way we could get 200 and some substitutes, so
Well,
that-
guest teachers.
Usually about 35 to 40 is our limit, even on our worst days, not even with guest teachers. Not 200.
I would like a druthers from you. I can infer lots of things. Would you prefer that we table this or pass?
I prefer that it gets passed and just be done with it, and that
We can make revisions
make
next year as
revisions,
appropriate.
and we can sort of figure out a game plan ahead of time that, we can amend the calendar if need be.
All right. That's your preference, but not your decision. Now, the
Right.
board, I will entertain a motion to table it if anyone so desires. Hearing no volunteers, the motion is pending. All in favor of approving next year's calendar as printed, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
I just want to say, Dr. Martin, I don't know if you had seen it, but the Farmer's Almanac have predicted this winter, so maybe we ought to check with them, early when they bring it on for next year.
Well, whether we check with them or not, we have a lot of fans around here of the Farmer's Almanac, and there are people who always tell us what the predictions are. Usually, they do not hold true in my experience, but this year they sure did.
Everybody knows
I
that
had to eat my words.
the caterpillars are the real
Yeah, I heard that
indicators.
too.
Mr. Diesinger. Mr. Diesinger?
Yeah, curriculum programs, no report. Curriculum committee, our next meeting will be in conjunction with the technology committee. It'll be March the 4th at 6:30 here. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Pena?
Just invite everybody to attend that co-meeting. A lot of discussion on the one-to-one initiative.
Thank you, sir. BCIU. The IU is just moving along quite nicely with the executive director running Reading. And the report on that is very optimistic. They're not going to get any more money, but they seem to be squaring a lot of things away. So, athletic committee, Mr. Stubbs.
I'll give you the full report on the winter season, but right now our girls basketball team is losing 30-26 in the fourth quarter, but they are fighting it down in Dover. So you're, well, excuse me, three-pointer, it is 30-29. All right, that is hot off the press. So, but again, next meeting I'll give you an update, and then also too, we'll have a meeting scheduled, and then at that point in time, we'll also be looking at some possible revenue generating things with advertising. Michael's not aware of all the work I'm going to have to do.
In the future, could you do a period play-by-play for us?
Well, if need be.
Thank you, sir. Joe, I've told them to change the district growth and liaison many times, but I've ignored it.
Yeah.
So it's all right.
Yeah. So I still have no report.
Thank you. On the township thing, the strategic planning committee is continuing to focus on what their vision of the future of Exeter Township is and how we can attract additional industry or technologically oriented businesses in here. I am still pleased that they are including us in the discussions, and consideration is being given to our desires and needs also. BC Public Relations, done.
Thank you. You have a copy of the newsletter as it came back from the printer last Wednesday. They were mailed. The bulk post office finally caught up to us. We were using slightly out-of-date numbers for each of the carrier routes. They added some and changed some, so the next time we will need to get more newsletters printed because of the differences in the carrier routes. But we will do that. You also have a little flyer. There's a parent forum scheduled for next Wednesday, the 26th of February. And we thought we'd do something a little bit different since tomorrow and Thursday is kindergarten registration. And those parents usually are coming in and have a lot of questions and are very eager for information. So with the timing of that, Julie Klein is going to present information to parents who are interested at the parent forum on the 26th about what skills kindergartners would be expected to be learning in kindergarten next year. It's the first time we've used that as a topic, and hopefully it will be a popular one. And the third and final thing I have, you have a copy of this very attractive flyer. Our art department is always very proactive about making sure people are aware that March is Youth Art Month. And again, we will have some of our student artwork displayed at the Exeter Public Library through the month of March. There is a reception for the artists on this Sunday a week, March 2nd, if anyone's available. The students will be there. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And it is a very professional looking thing for the art month. BCTC.
No.
Facilities Committee.
Facilities Committee met this past week to discuss more in depth about the ongoing bus barn replacement situation. Brought to light during that meeting was the existing bus facility is now screening more leaks through the roof, which brings more problems. During our meeting, we reviewed the ongoing discussion that Mr. Quinter has had with the township supervisors and staff regarding the potential of using the Watting Creek facility. And through his ongoing discussions, he's found that most, if not all, are in favor of the potential location of the bus barn at Watting. The other thing that...
Excuse me, Jim. I would point out that informal discussions have no bearing whatsoever on that.
Yes.
No one has committed to anything, and I didn't ask.
There are no commitments, but the tenor is in the right method. The questions have been coming forth, though, of why wasn't the Laos facility used? A couple people expressed that, and we reviewed the fact that, first off, it's located in St. Lawrence Borough, not Exeter. Second, the community at large is not necessarily in favor of having a bus-type industrial facility in this area because of the negative impact on housing. Third, we looked at the traffic pattern of buses having to go through a highly residential area up to a traffic light every morning and making a continual route through the day. And the traffic situation for those in the community, as well as the noise and constant backing up due to buses. So it was one of the reasons, some of the reasons we discussed that this facility, though it is in the possession of the school district, doesn't necessarily lend itself to the operation as a school bus facility, because it also does present many of the extra athletic fields also here, for not only for the school district, but also for the community, as it's tied into having landings right below us. The discussion really came down to how do we move from here, and we concluded that putting together an RFP for architectural and engineering services is probably our next step, where we would request firms to come to us with a proposal answering several questions that we will present in our RFP. There we will identify various firms we'd like to have an interview process with to see if we could, who and we would want to move forward with on this. Keeping in mind that we have to look at the length of time. We also discussed how long does this process take. There's a couple of members of the committee that are involved in construction design who indicated that we could probably be looking, if we started in the near future, it probably would not be finished until towards the end of 2015. It's pretty much a year and a half to 2 year type of project. From start to finish, by the time you get through the whole design, you get through all your permitting, approvals, and then get your contractor on board and so on. Though it's not a very big project, there are still multiple steps you can do in a design process. So what we've requested from Ann is she could have an RFP available for the board to look at next month at the workshop that we can pass around and review, and then potentially agree on the next meeting that we could then give out into the public. There were several firms that we've identified. I can't remember off the top of my head the names, so I don't want to mention one and miss another. Also, I had interest expressed to me through an email from a colleague from a firm, and I said, well, if they're interested, they should then send a letter to the school district, noting the fact that they would like to be invited into this opportunity. Other than that, our next meeting for the facilities meeting committee will be in April.
Thank you, sir.
Just a question, Ron. Do When we vote on the bus barn, do we have to vote on the bus barn before we move ahead with an RFP, or is
We'll vote on the RFP. We can certainly kill it at that time, or we could wait until we had the presentations from the architects with their estimates of their cost and that thing, and we could shoot it down at that time, or we can approve it and move on.
I just want to understand
It'll
the
also
process.
come into the budgeting process when we try to prioritize our expenditures.
Once we're up to spend any money, once we agree to a contract, then we have to have a vote.
I just didn't understand.
I've also had questions off of that on why, if you remember a few months back, we discussed a property down in Baumstown on Red Road, I believe. That property, I talked to the owner of that, and I did some calculations of mileage. With the buses, we are only paid mileage for those miles when there was a child aboard. No children, no money. And by locating the buses in Baumstown compared to a more central location, that cost us an additional $165,000 a year just for the bus expenses before we paid for the facility. So even the owner, Mr. Mascaro, said he'd be stupid to do that, but he did offer if we wanted to put one or two down there that would be picking up in that area, he'd be amenable for that also. But he agreed that would be a poor decision on our part to use that facility. Audit committee.
I had a question about the communication. We know that Awanton has problems as far as cell phones. Are you going to be doing a study down there to make sure that communications could be effective between, you know, people that are riding the bus 5, 6, 7 miles away, you know, to the central office?
Well, I did ask Mr. Pitts at one point if any of the cell carriers were interested in our site as a cell tower relay station, and he had inquired with all the major carriers, and none wanted to place a tower on our site. The biggest challenge of Wadden Creek is being inside of a building. Outside, there's okay coverage. Once you go in the building, due to the amount of concrete, you don't get a signal anywhere. So I think it's very limited, maybe in a few of the rooms that have a lot of windows. Texting occasionally, but as far as the communication back into there, if someone was calling on a cell phone back there, they would be calling onto a hard line, not necessarily into a cell phone tower to call.
You mean
to call Mr. Wegman.
Oh, to call Mr. Wegman.
Yeah, they would, if they had to call the office, they would be calling into a hard line, so that wouldn't be a problem.
But I did read that Pennsylvania, the governor, they were thinking about like getting rid of all landlines and just having cell phones. I mean, just having cell phone communication within Pennsylvania. And that probably, you know, that could possibly be something down the line.
Are you saying as a state, or are you saying?
Yeah, as a state,
Are
yeah.
you saying as individual homeowners?
No, as a state, that they would get rid of, they would get rid of landlines for even individual homeowners.
Well, that's a little aggressive to tell a private company how they're going to run their business, meaning Verizon, AT&T.
I'm just telling you what was stated, and if that were our policy, we could be in deep trouble down the line.
I think you'd also be putting many lives. He would be putting many lives at risk due to the lack of coverage of cell.
Well, there's a lot of things he
I don't think
could
that's very probable.
Well,
He can't get rid of the liquor stores. I doubt he's going to take care of the landlines.
I'm just bringing it up in just in case.
I think we move on from that one.
My understanding is that was a Verizon proposal because
Yeah.
replacing the lines from these storms and things is a very expensive proposition. My understanding also is that the federal communications, they would never permit that to happen, at least, so.
Well, the thing is that when electricity goes out, your home line still works if you have a hard line.
Right.
That's, which a lot of people don't
Audit,
realize.
audit committee.
I'm just saying, it was, put out there, that's all I'm saying.
You wanted it to hard line,
No additional report other than our tax report.
Thank you, sir. Payment request, Mr. Peasy.
I move that we pay the bills as of the, is it XIX, as stated in your pink.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of approving attachment 19, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Martin.
Yes, thank you very much. I want to recognize Mrs. Judy McGee, who's in the audience this evening. She's from our cafeteria staff. She works over at the senior high school, and she attends our meetings quite frequently, actually, as a resident. But I'm sure she's also here this evening as part of the Cafeteria Workers Association, having had her association approve the newest agreement as well as our board this evening. So congratulations on all, and we're happy with our continued alliance with your organization and being able to work with a great group of ladies.
She's also on the negotiating team.
She's on the negotiating team.
And now we graduate,
Thank you. And I also see Mrs. Tricia Cupid among us, and Mrs. Cupid is a second grade teacher at Lorraine, and I did not know you were going to be here, Trish, but I want to congratulate Trish, having been awarded a program energy grant through Mascaro's Respect Program Energy Grant Program of $3,856, and Trish, I'm hoping you don't mind if I put you on the spot and you could tell us a little bit about what you're going to do with the money. And
Sure. Well, Danielle DiMartini is also part of our team.
I thought that was who that was.
Yeah, hi, how are you? So between the two of us, Lisa Galt and David Fick, our whole team, we came together after we had an assembly with JP Mascaro with the Respect Program. And if your school goes through this program, and it's just an assembly teaching the kids about, recycling and things, then you are eligible for this grant. And it's up to $5,000. And we had to put a budget together, and we all put forth the effort. We wanted to make sure that we would utilize the money in a way that was helpful for the community and as well as the students. So Danielle had knowledge of a person, of this woman, who was going to come in and show the kids a hands-on experience about recycling and using worms. Right?
It's going to be Worm Day at Lorraine.
Yeah. So it's a whole process that she was very knowledgeable in, and we wanted to piggyback that experience then on getting technology then in the classroom, if we were able to get the money, to then just kind of extend our learning. And as part of being in second grade, we want to try to have these kids obviously have their technology in their hands. So we thought if there was a way that we could get some iPads in the classroom, that they can take pictures of this experience and put that into writing pieces and things of that nature. So we were really hoping to get, of course, the $5,000, which would have been fantastic, but we were, pleasantly surprised to get more than half of that. So yeah, we just found out a couple days ago. Yeah. So we were very,
and it will tie in with our
excited.
science curriculum as well. So it'll align nicely with what we're doing.
That's great. Thank you,
Very
Danielle, and congratulations, Trish. And please pass our congratulations on to your colleagues in second grade over there.
Yeah, we're very excited.
So more than welcome to come and get your hands dirty with the worms.
We'll come and help with the worms.
And we'll send pictures.
Dr. Davis will be there.
I will. So yeah, so thank you for recognizing.
Thank you.
Anything I know about worms?
Everybody can come.
Everybody can come. And they're going to learn how to recycle and compost, and the kids will actually be able to be a part of that process. And then again, they'll be planning and documenting it with hopefully the technology that we have through the entire process.
Didn't I say wiggle worms? So when is this going to be?
We're hoping in April. So we're just confirming the date that
That, that completes the agenda. Is there any, are there any other matters to come before the board?
I just want to say that I think, I read an article, it says invest locally and gain personally. And I think we can put that, you know, for our district. And I think, like you said about J.P. Mascaro, you know, he is, I know he's done a lot for the district. I know, are you from Lorraine?
Yep.
And didn't you got something last year?
Yeah, through our library.
Yeah, one of your secretaries or someone did that. So I think when it comes to purchasing things that do not have to go out for bid, or even if they did have to go out for bid, maybe we could look at the local community here as a source of, you know, buying from them as compared to buying from someone out of state, or, you know, out in Colorado, or, you know, down, where was it, we did the shirts and stuff for, and because these are people that work here, you know, and many of them, you know, whether they work at Home Depot, or, you know, at Lowe's, or wherever they work, many of them are taxpayers right here in Exeter Township. So I think we have a lot of money, and we spend a lot of money on local things, whether it's Mr. Pitts buying paint or whatever he's buying, that we should try to do things in our community first to help keep our tax base here. And then those people are more likely to help us out with any kind of projects, just like, you know, Mr. Mascaro does, to help them get something which is very important. So that's how I feel.
I support utilizing our current people. I think bid laws would include us on bids. We go to jail if we fix bids, but smaller items. Anything else? Yes.
Two things I wanted to, first thing I wanted to acknowledge Mr. Pitts and his staff for the great job they've been doing with snow removal, the extra hours and time they've been doing that, because it's been just a great season for all of us. And I know for people who then have to go out and plow and get out on the roads and do all that kind of fun stuff, it wears on your body, is where, you know, it also takes away from their own personal time a lot. They may have planned other things, so I think we owe them a nice thank you for all the time they put in for us. Secondly, I just wanted to know, I've had a number of people ask if we have any kind of updates regarding the merger conversations.
Antietam's business manager and myself are putting the numbers together. We're going to be meeting again tomorrow morning at 9. And
That some of the weather delays have been sort of interfering lately too.
weather delays, work demands. So we're trying to wrap it up and get it to the
So would the next one be here in the Exeter Township, our school district? Because the last one's in Antietam, wasn't it?
I'm not sure where.
I think we said we'd take turns just to kind of balance it off.
Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.